Hi, how's it
Good
going?
morning to you.
Good afternoon to evening. It's evening, right?
Evening, yeah.
Okay, so introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I'm Courtney Ellis, and I am currently on my own personal world tour.
All right, Courtney, we know your name, we know what you're
Mhm.
doing, but tell us more about you. Let's get a little bit deeper. Like instead of a sentence, give us a paragraph.
Okay. So I'm originally from Oakland, California. That's
Woo-hoo.
where my heart lives. That's where my family lives. That's the place that I love and will always start my life from. I graduated in 2016 from my master's programs. I got two of them. And in that same year, I kind of decided that what I was doing wasn't my life's work, that I wanted to do something else. I was also getting very angry in the position that I was in. So, October 15th, 2016, I decided that I was going to take this gap year that I'm currently on. And I made a plan. I took 2 years to save. I made sure that I brought somebody on to transition into my position perfectly and seamlessly. And then September 24th, 2018, I said, bye, and boarded my flight to London, which is where I started this journey that I've been on for the past 4 months.
Wow. All right, so you told us your name, where you're from. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 33.
She's 33. So
Yeah, 33.
full-grown adult, not someone
Yes.
fresh out of high school on a gap year, although it's hard to tell because she looks so young.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Um,
No, I'm kind of a late in lifer on this one, I guess, with the whole
yeah,
gap year. But, Stephanie, oh, I just
Perry.
forgot her last. Thank
Yes.
you. Stephanie Perry. I came across her blog and she talked about how she took her gap year late in life. And it reminded me that no matter what point you're at, you can always start something new. You just have to decide it's what you want to do and go for it. So I chatted Stephanie on Facebook and I was like, you're part of my inspiration because she's a large plus size African American woman who's traveling the world by herself and enjoying it and really making it her own. And I said, I want to do that too. And she said, girl, go for it. Keep me as a resource. Let me know if you need me. And it's been wonderful ever since.
All right. So Stephanie Perry's blog is vicarious.com. That's it, right?
Yes.
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 So I'll add her in the comments or on the screen. She's amazing, a great resource. How
Mhm.
long do you plan on this trip going for?
I would like to be out and about until the beginning of September 2019.
Okay.
Um, we'll see how long the money lasts me. I might have to end it a little early, but fingers crossed.
Okay. Since we're on that topic now, a couple of money questions.
Okay.
You said you saved up for this journey. Was there anything specific you did when you were saving, when you had this plan in mind over the 2 years?
Um, Honestly, I wish I could say there was something specific, but there wasn't. What I actually did to save, because I am bougie, I'm not going to lie. I got two more jobs. So I had my full-time job and I had two part-time jobs. And I made sure I opened an account with Charles Schwab, which I read everywhere in Nomadness Tribe and stuff that it was great for traveling because you get those ATM fees back. So I opened that account. I made sure all my part-time job money went into that account and I just did not touch it.
That's
That's it.
amazing. That's amazing. So two part-time jobs, that must have been tough. Was it worth it to you?
100%, mostly because I made sure the part-time jobs were something that I wanted to do. I am addicted to eyewear. I have over 15 pairs of glasses, and the company that I get my glasses from was willing to let me work on weekends. So the second part-time job I got was literally just delivering laundry, which again worked to my benefit because I hate doing laundry. So working for the service meant I got a discount on them doing my laundry. I could set my own schedule on the days that I wanted to work. And if they needed extra help and I felt like it, I could do it. And picking up and delivering laundry really took like 2 hours from 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that you want to see how far the money is going to stretch. Are there specific things you're doing on your year-long journey to stretch your money that you might not do otherwise if you just had like bags of cash stashed somewhere?
Honestly, I wish I could say that I was. Managing my finances has never been like my strong suit. So no, there's nothing specific. I go over budget frequently. Um, but in doing that, I continue. My motto's always been I can always make money. What I can't do is get back a missed opportunity. So for example, Johannesburg, when I was in South Africa for Afropunk, that was not on the plan. I know that South Africa is expensive. I knew the concert was going to be expensive, but I ended up going, staying 3 extra days, and having legit one of the best weeks I have ever had in my life.
That's nice.
I would not, I would throw more money at that so I could do that again. If every week I traveled could be that great, I don't care if I'm out here for 3 more weeks. Those would be 3 fantastic weeks.
Amazing. All right, you just said the magic word budget. Can you give us more details about what your budget looks like? I'm sure people want to know.
So planning wise, my budget worked out to basically the same that it was when I was living by myself in Oakland. I wanted to spend, $4,000 a month, including, places to stay, getting around, etc. So I actually met a woman in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, who introduced me to this app called Travel Expense, which has been helping me a little bit more on managing my budget. I originally had this massive Excel spreadsheet that I was honestly not keeping up with. So I appreciate that app very much. I divide the 4,000 by the number of days of the month and then multiply that by the number of days I plan to be someplace. And that's kind of what I set my budget for that week, for those 10 days, whatever it ends up being. I'm willing to pay a little bit extra if I decide to join a tour group just for safety purposes and maybe a little camaraderie, because I'm not going to lie, it gets a little lonely out here sometimes. But even then, I still try and do my best to keep things, around $200 a day, because that will include transportation, housing, at least 2 meals, entrance fees, etc. So.
Okay. So you mentioned that you saved ahead of time. Did you save $48,000 for this trip?
I did not know, not at all. I am fortunate enough to be a digital nomad, I guess, and working part-time remotely. Every 2 weeks, I still get a paycheck, which helps to supplement what I saved and actually help pay for a lot of stuff.
That's really helpful to know. So people who are considering a trip like this might want to know what kind of work they can do as a digital nomad. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what you're doing, kind of work you're doing?
Well, I actually got super lucky in that one of my managers was willing to allow me to be out on the road from my previous position as a research project manager. She is amazing and my mentor and my friend. So I attribute my ability to be a digital nomad to her. Based on what I had saved prior to leaving, I probably would have only been gone for about 3 months or so. But thanks to her, I'm able to be out here a little bit longer. Yeah.
It's amazing. Okay. So you talked your job into doing not your full work, but a part of your responsibilities on the road.
Yes.
What is your re-entry plan? Because I think that's something people fear a lot. If I leave, how do I get a job coming back? So do you plan on going back to the same position you were in before, to anything? Like, tell me about your plan.
So my plan is to go back in September, attend the 3-day meeting that I have with my current manager. I love that meeting, so I wanted to do it one more time. And then after that meeting, I plan to move to Seattle. And again, I have to talk about my part-time jobs because I worked at Sea Eyewear and they have offices in Seattle. So what I'm hoping is, since it's the same regional manager and they liked me, that they'd be willing to hire me back on, even if it's on a part-time basis, just to get me going again.
You mentioned loneliness before. What are your coping mechanisms for the loneliness? Because I know that when I'm traveling, there are like I'll go 4 or 5 days without seeing anyone who looks like me or speaks my language. And that creates a loneliness that I've never experienced before. So what do you do to deal with that?
So I'm going to be very honest with you. I am bipolar. So when I hit feels like that, they take me significantly lower. And I have medication that I take to help support whatever chemical imbalance is causing some of this train wreck that I can't stop occasionally. And the thing that I've learned over my many years of therapy is to feel what you feel when you feel it. And throw it out into the universe. So there has been a couple of times where on Facebook, I have thrown it out there and said, hey, does anybody want to convince me to leave my Airbnb today? And because of my amazing community, I will immediately get a WhatsApp video chat from somebody that goes, what is going on with you? What is it you need to get off your chest? What's going on with you today? And I'll have that conversation with them for about 1 to 2 hours, and I will get that sense of love that I've been missing, that sense of community that I needed. And sometimes that helps me to get out. Sometimes it takes me one more day to do it. Sometimes it takes a therapy session to do it. But having those resources and remembering that I have those resources has been what's really helped me on those really, really down days. Because believe me, I understand being places where you don't know anybody, don't speak the language, and having to figure out what you want to do for you every day is so different from being scheduled. Like I'm used to know I go to work at 9:30, I get off at 5 o'clock, I stay a little later if I want to. I go to the gym, I go home, I repeat. It gets very comfortable and regimented. And what I did was just rip that apart. So I wake up on days in cities that I don't know, and I have to figure out what I'm gonna do. It gets to be overwhelming sometimes, and sometimes I don't want to do it, and sometimes I don't. And that's okay, because this is my trip.
Right.
I'm super behind on my blog, but my plan was every 4 weeks to write sort of a lessons learned on my blog, even as just an entry for me to remember. And my next one is going to be about how other bloggers lie, and those Instagram photos you see will lie, like these people just looking like they happy, so lucky all the time.
No.
They're only showing you the good stuff. And I think that's the thing I appreciate, even when I look back on my Instagram, because I'll look back on my own photos to inspire myself, like, girl, you have done some stuff.
Some things, been some places.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll also still, take photos and post photos of the bad days.
Okay.
I was only in Porto, Portugal for 4 days. I left my Airbnb one day. It was a great day, and I'm honestly okay with that, because apparently that's what I needed to do for me. That's the stuff that you don't see on other people's Instagrams, but I was posting photos of me laid up in bed talking about, we not leaving today, y'all.
Okay. So how do you manage being productive on the road when there's so many things to do? Or we talked about being worn out or having bad days. How do you incorporate regular work that's expected of you into your schedule?
I actually find having regular work on my schedule a lot easier than trying to schedule stuff for myself, because I'm trying to blog too, just so my mom and my aunts can follow on, and a couple of friends if they want to. But like I said, I am many, many weeks behind. I think I wrote week 6 last week, and I'm on week 18. But actually having regularly scheduled work, knowing that I have to put in those hours so that I can get that paycheck, actually occasionally helps me schedule my day.
Okay.
It'll force me to get up in the morning at 8 o'clock rather than noon. Because on those noon days, I don't really get anything done. So knowing that in the evening from 8 p.m. until midnight, I need to be online, I need to be doing what I need to do to earn that paycheck has actually been really helpful for me. because while I sort of did rip away from my routine, I have not ripped away from it 100%. And I appreciate that a little bit. Now, there are some days where I have to text my manager and go, so I don't think I'm going to be online today. And she goes, okay, are you going to make up those hours? And my response is, of course, always yes. But sometimes even she goes, she follows me on Instagram and stuff. She says, I see you out there having a great day. Take a PTO day. Let's chat tomorrow. Let me know how much fun you had. And
Amazing.
again, I appreciate that. That's such a blessing to have a manager like that.
That is. You mentioned earlier, hold on. Oh, we're talking about work. Do you have scheduled meetings at any time with your manager?
Yes.
How do
Yes.
you manage the different time zones and working and all that other stuff?
So because I choose to stay, generally I locate in a central city and I'll take trains and buses around. I um, I always text her or email her at the beginning of the week to say something like, okay, we have a 12-hour difference. Can we move our Wednesday meeting up 2 hours, so that I'm not trying to meet with you at 2 a.m. and you're not trying to meet with me at like 5 a.m. or something like that. So she and I are very open in our communication about the differences in time zones. The only time it's been a big issue is when I was on a tour in Morocco, and that was a little bit more difficult because my days weren't my own.
Right.
So I wasn't 100% sure, when we were going to get back to the hotel, if I was going to be exhausted, etc. But we've always rescheduled those meetings as necessary, and it's actually worked out pretty well.
Before you started this trip, what was your biggest fear about traveling alone for a year?
Safety.
Safety? What do
Yeah.
you have in mind specifically?
Well, in my head, nobody likes us. Like we're Black women. Like we
Mhm.
experienced racism, sexism, all the isms at home, and there's no reason that I wouldn't expect to experience it even more so out about in the world. Because I'm out of my element, I'm out of my environment. None of this is familiar to me. And while I have experienced some of it, along the road, I've actually had more pleasant encounters than I have had negative ones, which I appreciate. But I am still, as always, very diligent about my safety and ensuring that I feel comfortable places.
Okay.
Which is what my whole trip is about for me. I want to be sure that I feel good and that I am comfortable wherever I land.
Okay. So in the last 4 months, what has been your favorite place to go?
Tunisia.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Now,
a good
why was that your
question.
favorite?
Uh, honestly, Tunisia reminds me of California.
Really? In what
Yeah,
way?
like it's an Arab French speaking country, but because it's got so much coast with
Mhm.
inland desert and stuff like that, the scenery of it was beautiful. I was in Tunis for most of the time, but I met a couch surfer there, and we rented a car and we drove up the highway to another city that was beachy and beautiful. And I went, this looks like San Diego, and Tunisia reminded me of Oakland because it was so chill, and there were just different little neighborhoods that were super cute. I just had a really good time there.
Okay.
And it was a surprising place to go, because you don't hear a lot of people going to Tunisia to vacation. Everybody goes to Morocco, and I want to tell everybody, stop going to Morocco, go to Tunisia.
Okay. Because you went to Morocco also, right?
I went to Morocco. That's where I took the tour.
Okay. Right. All right. What's the least favorite place you've been?
Morocco.
You're going to say that. I almost brought it up. So you had some unpleasant incidents there, right?
Yeah, I was sexually assaulted in almost every city I went to in Morocco. So while I was on the tour with my group, it was great. There's a lot of beautiful things there. It got really repetitive, and I don't appreciate being touched by random men.
Okay. So What is the place, like of all the places you've been so far, what is the place that you would recommend the most for the Black female solo traveler?
Oh, this one's difficult because there's actually two.
I'll take two.
Okay. So Dakar, Senegal.
Really?
Yes, that was such a beautiful experience. Have you ever opened your door and the person working in your hotel is as dark and as beautiful as you are? The people walking down the street are as dark and as beautiful as you are. The woman who sells you your coffee in the morning is as dark and as beautiful as you are. Everybody that's wandering around in a business suit is a dark, beautiful human being. And not only that, they're speaking French too, which is my favorite language. I was in awe the entire time because there was no one else. Like, everyone looked like me. I didn't stand out. I wasn't, the fat, dark Black girl with locks. There were other women that looked like me. There were other dudes that looked like me. Little chocolate babies that I wanted to kidnap were just running around having a great time. And I made a post on Instagram that said, "Is this what it's like to be white in America?" Like, you just go outside and you feel comfortable because all you see is you.
Mm-hmm.
I've never done that before.
That's how I felt in Durban in South Africa when I went there. It was like,
Yeah.
everybody's Black. Because a lot of cities I go to, if there's a Black population, especially in the tourism industry, a lot of the Black people are working for the white tourists. And it was different in Durban. And I was just like, we are the guests and the workers. It's magic.
Yeah.
It's absolute magic.
Everything. This is amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing to feel, and for me, it helps me feel seen. There are places where I was like, oh, I'm not like, a lot of places you'll just get stared at, and I wasn't getting stared at, and I wasn't getting ignored, and I wasn't getting treated differently because I'm like everybody else. There is a little bit, I don't know if it's like this in Dakar, but I did experience a little bit of a little bit different treatment when I did not speak Zulu because I knew I wasn't South African. And, the American passport gets you a little bit further in some places, either good or bad. You're either getting a little bit more deferential treatment or less, but there's a little bit of a difference there. Okay, so.
There was a little bit of that in Senegal, mostly because I think also as a single solo traveling female, everybody was like, oh, she's looking for a husband. No, I'm not looking for a husband. Thank you. Which was very confusing to them. They're like, but you're not married. And I'm like, that is correct. And somehow that translates to them into, well, clearly you're looking for a husband, and here I am. No, that's not how this works.
So if you're a Black female solo traveler looking for a husband, Dakar, Senegal is the place to go.
They offer themselves to you immediately.
Any advice for anyone who's considering taking a mid-career gap year?
Do it.
Okay. Anything more specific than do it? Like what should they consider doing? What didn't you do that you wish you had done?
And honestly, I guess I don't feel super qualified to give great advice because I don't know that I'm necessarily doing anything that would be able to be replicated by somebody else other than facing your fears, buying the cheapest ticket to whatever place it is one way and get on it. Because hopefully, especially if you go later in life, you've got a community built up that you can always come back to. You've got those sisters, those friends, those brothers who, want you to go and do this so much that they'll get a separate credit card just in case you get into trouble so they can come and get you. I've got 3 of those back home.
Wow.
Yeah, they're like, no, we opened a credit card just in case. So you go and you let us know if you have any issues. So I feel like waiting a little bit in life, having that community has been part of what's made me feel brave enough to have this adventure. And again, I blame my mom because she, when I was 18, gave me this framed quote that said, I gave you better wings so you could fly higher.
Aww.
And I think I've taken that to heart. And that's what I'm doing. So it's really just do it. My advice is do it. If you think about it, if you think about anything for more than a month, that means you need to do it.
Okay. That's a really good point. And I know that for me, I thought about this for less than a month, but I was at a turning point. I had to do something. But for you, you planned it for 2 years, and that's really amazing.
Yeah.
So we talked about safety. We talked about money. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you kind of want to touch on right now?
I would say there's this comparison thing that I find myself doing. I don't know if you do it, but I have always looked at the travel Instagrams and the travel blogs and all of that stuff, and I find myself comparing a couple of times and wondering if I'm not doing this trip, you know, the best. Am I having the adventures that everybody wants me to have because they're all living vicariously through me, and stuff like that. And it's another side of, you know, behind the scenes that you don't get a lot of, and it's letting go of those people that are living vicariously through you so you live vicariously through yourself. Like my whole objective now, and it's taken me a while to get here, has been I want to look back at my pictures and I want to laugh at myself. I want to have that taste come back, that feeling come back, that memory come back, for me, and not for anybody else. And I feel like that's something I wish was talked about a little bit more when I was doing my research, that I sort of picked up on and discovered for myself.
Okay. Well, thanks again for joining me. This is great.